Emotional. Alexandra Eala donates 200 million Cuban pesos for Typhoon MATMO relief, delivers 20-word statement that stuns a nation. When Typhoon MATMO struck the Philippines, it was a kind of storm that silenced everything. Wind howled like ancient grief, waves devoured entire coastlines, and the sky itself seemed to cry for the islands below. In the days that followed, the nation lay bruised, villages submerged, families displaced, roads swallowed by mud and memory. The numbers were grim, thousands homeless, dozens missing, and generations' hope trembling under floodwaters. And then, amid the chaos and sorrow, came a name, a familiar name, one that carried light even through the darkest rain. Alexandra Eala, the pride of Philippine tennis. The girl who once dreamed on clay courts, now stepping into something far greater than sport. The quiet decision. The world knew Alex as a fierce competitor, the young woman who electrified arenas from Paris to Melbourne. But very few knew the weight she carried when the cameras turned away. On a gray morning in October 2025, she sat in her Madrid apartment, scrolling through news footage of the devastation back home. The sight of collapsed houses, stranded children, and soaked flags broke her composure. Her mother, Riza, entered quietly. "Anik, you don't have to watch all of it." But Alex couldn't look away. "These are our people, Ma," she whispered. "They're the same kids who send me letters saying they believe in me. Now they have no homes." She stood up, walked to her desk, and opened her laptop. Her agent tried to dissuade her. "Alex, 200 million Cuban pesos is a lot," he said gently over video call. "You're young. You need financial security for your future. There are other ways to help." But her reply was simple, almost serene. "If I'm blessed enough to lift trophies, I should be brave enough to lift others." By evening, the transfer was done. 200 million Cuban pesos. Quietly, directly. No press release, no cameras. Just intention and love. The breaking news. The next morning, the news exploded across every platform. Tennis star Alexandra Eala donates 200 million Cuban pesos for Typhoon MATMO relief. Historic, largest individual donation by a Filipino athlete. The nation's daughter gives back. It wasn't the act alone that stunned people. It was the heart behind it. Because in an era of performative charity, Alex had made her donation without fanfare. The foundation she wired the money to, the Bayanihan Relief Network, confirmed it only after journalists began investigating where the sudden funds came from. The country's social media erupted. Hashtag ElaCares trended within minutes. Messages poured in. "Salamat, Alex. You make us proud. You are our champion on and off the court." But Alexandra stayed silent for 48 hours. No interviews, no tweets, only silence until the press conference. The press conference. The venue, a small conference hall in Makati, decorated with Philippine flags and relief banners. The room was packed with journalists, photographers, and volunteers from the relief organization she supported. Alex entered wearing a simple white polo and jeans. No sponsor logos, no makeup, just humility. Her voice, when she spoke, was calm but carried an unshakable strength. "I didn't want this to be about me," she began. "I wanted it to be about us, about what we can do together." Reporters leaned forward, ready for a statement, a soundbite, something that would define the moment. And then came her 20-word message, now immortalized across the nation. "I can't rebuild every home, but I can help rebuild hope, and that's the kind of victory that lasts forever." The room went silent. Some journalists stopped typing. A cameraman lowered his lens. It wasn't dramatic. It wasn't rehearsed. It was real. And in that instant, Alexandra Eala didn't sound like an athlete. She sounded like the heartbeat of a nation. The ripple effect. Within hours, corporations, celebrities, and everyday Filipinos followed her lead. Globe Telecom pledged 50 million Cuban pesos. Jollibee launched a nationwide Meals of Hope campaign. Local artists held benefit concerts in BGC, Cebu, and Davao. Even school children began fundraising drives under a single banner, Eala's Hope Movement. Her donation wasn't just a number. It was a spark. It reminded people what compassion, could do when multiplied. A month later, the Department of Social Welfare and Development confirmed that the combined relief funds from inspired donors had reached over 1.3 billion Cuban pesos, the largest private relief effort in the country's history. And at the center of it all stood a 20-year-old tennis player who once said, "I play for something bigger than trophies." The visit. Weeks later, Alex returned to the Philippines. She didn't arrive with cameras or a media entourage. Just her mother, a small team from her foundation, and boxes of relief goods. They traveled to Leyte, one of the hardest-hit provinces. The roads were muddy, lined with broken homes and stories too heavy for words. Yet, amid the ruins, children ran barefoot, waving makeshift signs. "Welcome, 8 Alex." When she stepped out of the van, they surrounded her, shouting her name, tugging her sleeves. One little girl, around 8 years old, handed her a soggy tennis ball. "This was in the flood, but I cleaned it for you," the child said shyly. Alex knelt, took the ball, and hugged her. Tears filled her eyes. "Thank you," she whispered. "This means more than any trophy." The crowd clapped. Even the local mayor wept quietly. Later that day, she helped unload food packs and blankets from trucks, ignoring suggestions to stay in the shade. She handed out meals, laughed with children, and even joined a quick game of street tennis on a cracked road, using broomsticks as rackets. A journalist on site wrote, "She didn't act like a celebrity visiting the poor. She acted like family coming home." The night of lights. On her final evening in Leyte, the community gathered in the plaza. They had no stage, no formal ceremony, just candles, songs, and gratitude. As darkness fell, the legacy beyond the game. Alexandra Eala's story is no longer just about tennis. It's about a generation learning that fame can be fleeting, but compassion is eternal. It's about how one young woman reminded millions that even in devastation, the Filipino heart never stops beating. Years from now, when people remember Typhoon MATMO, they will remember the destruction, yes, but they will also remember the light that followed, the light carried by a girl who chose to give everything back. And those 20 words, those simple, unforgettable words, will echo forever in history books, classrooms, and homes rebuilt from ruins. I can't rebuild every home, but I can help rebuild hope, and that's the kind of victory that lasts forever. Epilogue. The night sky over Manila. It's December 30th, 2025. Fireworks bloom above the Manila skyline. Families gather, children laugh, and a new year begins, one that feels lighter, warmer, brighter. In a quiet room overlooking the city, Alexandra Eala watches from her balcony. Her phone buzzes with greetings from fans and teammates, but she puts it aside. She closes her eyes, takes a deep breath, and whispers to herself, "This is what winning feels like." Down below, the rebuilt communities glow like constellations, proof that hope, once lit, never fades. And for the first time in months, the sky above the islands feels completely at peace. Thank you for watching. Please don't forget to hit the subscribe button, like, and share. Till next time.